Welcome to the SafeSimpleSound podcast, where we believe that true financial confidence comes from resolving contradictions, not ignoring them. Today, we are continuing our deep dive series into the nature of risk. If you joined us for our previous discussion, you know we explored systematic risk, the storms you cannot control, like inflation or broad market volatility. We talked about how we navigate those storms. But today is different. Today, we are talking about the risks you can control. In fact, we are talking about the risks you can and likely should eliminate entirely. We are exploring the concept of unsystematic risk. Now, don't let the technical term push you away. Through our Safe Simple Sound methodology, we're going to translate that into something incredibly practical. Here is the core question we want to answer today. Are you taking risks for which the market pays you exactly $0? It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? We are often taught that high risk equals high return. But our S3 framework demonstrates that this isn't always true. There is a specific type of risk, often hiding in plain sight within your portfolio, that offers no mathematical expectation of reward. Whether you are a corporate executive holding company stock, a business owner reinvesting everything back into your own industry, or a family simply trying to pick the winners in the stock market, this episode is designed to give you the structural integrity you need. By the end of this episode, you will understand the difference between investing and speculation, and you will have a clear path to eliminating unnecessary danger from your financial life. Let's step into the Simple Sound studio and look at how we turn the risks you choose into your greatest opportunity for stability. Let's begin by establishing a foundational truth that drives our practice at Safe Simple Sound. In the world of finance, there are two distinct baskets of risk. The first basket is what we discussed last time, the risk of the market itself. If you invest in the global economy, and the global economy has a bad year, your account value goes down. The market compensates you for taking this risk. Historically, over long periods, the market has provided returns, often in that 8 to 10% range, as a thank you for enduring the volatility. That is a fair trade. But then there is the second basket. This is unsystematic risk. This is the risk of a specific company failing. It's the risk of a CEO committing fraud. It's the risk of a single industry, like typewriters or video rental stores, becoming obsolete overnight. Here is the radical S3 truth we want to share with you today. The market does not care if you take this risk. It offers you no premium, no bonus points, and no extra return for betting on a single horse rather than owning the racecourse. Taking this risk is not investing in the normal sense. It borders on gambling. And in the S3 framework, we believe in integration over abandonment. We want to keep the growth potential of the market, that's the sound part, while abandoning the unnecessary risk of the single bet, that's the safe part. Let's talk about the free lunch of diversification. Now, you might hear Wall Street talking about alpha and beta and complex hedging strategies. But at Safe Simple Sound, we strip away the jargon to find the simple truth. Let's look at a comparison we use frequently in our practice to illustrate this. Imagine you hold one stock. Let's call it Company A. Based on market analysis, the expected long-term return might be around 10%. But the risk of total ruin is significant. Companies go bankrupt. Even giants fall. So you have a 10% expected return, but a high potential for zero. Now imagine you hold 500 companies, let's say the S&P 500 index. The expected long-term return, still roughly 10%, but the risk of total ruin, it is near zero. For the S&P 500 to go to zero, the entire United States economy would essentially have to cease to exist, at which point your stock portfolio is the least of your worries. Do you see the contradiction being resolved here? This is the heart of our approach. You can keep the same expected return, that's the sound principle, while drastically lowering your risk of ruin, that's the safe principle. Economists often say that diversification is the only free lunch in investing. And drawing from our CFC background at Safe Simple Sound, we agree. It is the only place where you get increased safety without sacrificing expected return. To understand why single companies are so dangerous compared to the broad market, we have to look at why they fail. In our practice, we categorize these failures into two buckets. First, there is business risk. This is simply the risk that a company makes a product nobody wants anymore. Think about photography companies before digital cameras or video rental chains before streaming. They didn't necessarily do anything wrong financially. The world just moved on. If your wealth is tied to that one company, your wealth moves on with it. Second, there is financial risk. This happens when a company takes on too much debt. Everything looks fine when interest rates are low and sales are high. But if rates rise or sales dip, suddenly that debt becomes a crushing weight. When you concentrate your money in a single stock, whether it's your employer's stock or a hot tip you heard from a neighbor, you are voluntarily accepting both business risk and financial risk. But remember our opening principle. The market gives you no extra points for doing so. You are taking uncompensated danger. You are walking a tightrope without a net when there is a perfectly good bridge right next to you. From a SafeSimpleSound perspective, this provides the clarity we look for. If the return is the same, but the risk is lower with the diversified approach, the decision becomes simple. We choose the path that aligns with stability. Now, we know that understanding the theory is different from living it. It is easy to say diversify when looking at a spreadsheet. It is much harder when the stock you hold is a company you love or an employer you've been loyal to for decades. This brings us to what we call the loyalty trap. Through our SafeSimpleSound practice, we've observed patterns where families hold 20%, 50%, or even 80% of their net worth in their employer's stock. They don't do this because they are reckless. They do it because they feel safe. They know the company. They see the parking lot is full. They like the CEO. They feel loyal. But this feeling of safety is actually an illusion that violates the safe first principle. To illustrate this principle in action, let me share a hypothetical scenario that illustrates exactly how this tension plays out in real life. While this story is created for educational purposes, it demonstrates patterns we see when families apply S3 thinking, or fail to apply it, to their retirement planning. Consider a fictional couple. Let's call them James and Sarah Miller. James has worked for a large, successful technology manufacturing company for 25 years. He is a senior manager. He loves his job and he loves the company. Over the years, part of his compensation has been in company stock options. Additionally, because he believes in the company so much, he has used his cash bonuses to buy more stock in his 401k. When the Millers come to the table for a planning session, we look at their balance sheet. They have done a great job saving. They have a net worth of $2 million. However, $1.5 million of that, 75% of their entire future, is tied up in the stock of James's employer. James feels good about this. "I know this place inside and out," he says. "We're launching a new product next year that's going to be huge. The stock is going to double." From a SafeSimpleSound perspective, our team sees a massive structural vulnerability. We see double jeopardy. Let's play this hypothetical scenario forward. Imagine a competitor releases a better product unexpectedly. Or perhaps there is a supply chain scandal. The company's stock drops 40% in a month. Suddenly, the Millers' $1.5 million in stock is worth $900,000. They have lost $600,000 of their retirement security in 4 weeks. But that's not the worst part. Because the company is struggling, they need to cut costs. James is a senior manager with a high salary. He gets called into HR and is laid off. Now, look at the situation through the lens of double jeopardy. On the exact same day, James has lost his income, his paycheck, and a massive portion of his wealth, his stock. The very event that destroyed his job also destroyed his savings. This is the opposite of safe. It creates a fragility that can shatter a family's financial future instantly. While this story is fictional, it demonstrates how principles protect us. If the Millers had applied the integration principle earlier, they would have systematically sold that company stock over time, moving it into a diversified portfolio of thousands of companies. If they had done that, and the company hit a rough patch, one James might still lose his job. That is a risk we can't fully eliminate. 2. But his savings would have remained stable because his wealth wasn't tied to that one specific ship. His portfolio would have acted as the lifeboat. Instead, because he concentrated his risk, the lifeboat sank along with the ship. Through this example, you can see how thinking applies. It's not about predicting that the company will fail. It's about acknowledging that it could. And because we cannot predict the future, the sound decision is to ensure that no single event can take you out of the game. Whether you are facing this exact situation with employer stock, or you simply have a portfolio dominated by 3 or 4 favorite tech companies, the principle remains the same. You are carrying weight you don't need to carry. From our CHFC background at SafeSimpleSound, the approach suggests a shift in mindset. We need to move from loyalty to the company to loyalty to the plan. Your family's security must come before your employer's stock price. So how do we fix this? How do we move from this fragile state to a state of safe, simple, and sound stability? We use a metaphor in our practice called structural integrity. Think about building a house. If you build a roof supported by one single massive beam, you might feel confident if that beam is made of strong oak. But if that one beam develops rot or termites or cracks under a heavy snow, the entire roof collapses. The failure is catastrophic. The approach is different. We don't try to guess which beam is the strongest. We don't try to pick the winner beam. Instead, we build the house with thousands of beams. We use the entire market. If one beam snaps, if one company goes bankrupt, the house stands. You might not even hear the beam snap. The structure is so redundant, so resilient, that the failure of any single component is irrelevant to the safety of the whole. By diversifying, we essentially erase unsystematic risk from the equation. We are left only with market risk, which we can manage with time and patience, and we have removed company risk, which can destroy us instantly. This aligns with the principle of simplicity. It is exhausting to track the earnings reports of 5 different companies, worrying about their CEOs, their product launches, and their legal battles. It is incredibly simple to own the entire market. You don't have to read a single annual report. You can turn off the financial news. You know that as long as capitalism continues to function, your house of thousands of beams will stand. This provides the psychological safety we want for every listener. It allows you to sleep at night, knowing that your financial future isn't resting on the shoulders of one CEO or one product launch. As we wrap up today's episode on the risks you choose, let's review the key insights we've covered. First, we recognize that not all risks are created equal. Systematic risk pays you a return. Unsystematic risk or single company risk pays you nothing. It is an uncompensated burden. Second, we looked at the loyalty trap. We saw through our hypothetical examples how holding too much employer stock creates double jeopardy, threatening both your income and your wealth simultaneously. And finally, we explored the solution, structural integrity. By diversifying, we accept the free lunch of economics. We maintain our expected returns while mathematically eliminating the risk of total ruin. So what is your next step? We encourage you to look at your portfolio today with fresh eyes. Look for concentration. If you are holding a single stock that makes up more than 5% of your portfolio, you aren't just investing, you are betting. And the good news is, you don't have to. This doesn't mean you have to sell everything tomorrow and trigger a massive tax bill. That wouldn't be safe or sound. It means acknowledging the risk and creating a plan to systematically unwind it. It means moving from a position of fragility to a position of strength. This episode draws from our recent blog post titled The Risks You Choose, which you can find at SafeSimpleSound.com. In that post, we've included a specific resource called the S3 Concentration Buster Tool. This is a simple worksheet designed to help you calculate your gambler's odds. It helps you see exactly how much uncompensated risk you are holding and visualize how simple it is to maintain your returns while lowering your danger. We invite you to download that tool. It is yours to use completely free. If today's S3 insights resonate with your family's situation, if you realize during our hypothetical story that you might be holding too much of your employer's stock, we invite you to explore what financial planning could look like through our Safe, Simple, Sound practice. Our team specializes in helping families navigate these exact transitions, turning concentrated risk into diversified freedom without fear or judgment. But either way, whether you engage with our practice or simply use the tools we provide, you are now equipped with a powerful capability. You know how to identify the risks you don't have to take. You know how to choose the path of structural integrity. Thank you for listening to the Safe, Simple, Sound podcast. We look forward to being with you in the next episode, where we will bring all of these concepts together into a unified whole. Until then, stay safe, keep it simple, and ensure your future is sound.